This week on Houston Newsmakers, after the floods, the city's continued response. Houston City Council member Dwight Boykins here to talk about the progress of the city as a whole, and in his District D, the upcoming Second Chance Job Fair, designed to give nonviolent ex-felons the chance to find a job. Pulitzer Prize-winning author John Meacham and his book on the life and presidency of President Bush 41 is called Destiny and Power: The American Odyssey of George Herbert Walker Bush. An in-depth conversation you don't want to miss. And considered the largest jazz festival on the Gulf Coast, the Red Cat Jazz Fest is set for Mother's Day weekend at Moody Gardens. How you can have fun, treat mom, and help a nonprofit at the same time.
From KPRC Channel 2, this is Houston Newsmakers with Khambrel Marshall.
And good morning and welcome to Houston Newsmakers, and welcome once again to Houston City Council member Dwight Boykins, representing District D. Good morning, Dwight. Good to see you as always.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We want to get to the topic that we want to talk about right off the bat, the Second Chance Job Fair.
Yeah.
This is the second time for this job fair?
It's the second year.
How did it come about?
Well, you know, when I was campaigning Khambrel for this position a few years ago, I realized there was a major disconnect between unemployed individuals and employers who couldn't connect. And the medium was, for me, was that a lot of people made decisions in the past and received some type of penalty. Some of them were felons, ex-felons, and they were saying that they would always be disqualified because they were a felon in the past. Now, they paid their debt to society, walking the right path, and just could not get this break. So I said, if I was elected, I promise you that I would create a program that would allow the business industries and opportunities for people who made mistakes in the past, not just ex-felons, high school dropouts that have skills, unemployed, to bridge it together and be able to create opportunities, because once you get a job, crime goes down, economics goes up, tax base goes up for the city.
How successful was it last year, and what are your goals for this year?
Great question. Last year we were grateful. Texas Southern University allowed us to use their recreation center. We had over 1,200 attendees, about 32 companies. And we're anticipating this year a larger crowd. We're moving it to the Georgia Brown Convention Center. We're up to close to 45. We're hoping to have about 60 companies. 3,500 individuals have signed up so far. And we encourage anybody who want to come down that's serious about a second chance opportunity. I tell parents all the time, don't send me your child because you want them. If they want this, Khambrel, I've asked companies to take down the barrier of their past mistakes, allow them to explain what happened. And also we're bringing in the Houston Apartment Association, because there are a lot of people, I realized from last year's conference, that they cannot get an apartment because of being an ex-felon. So if you and I made a mistake 5 years ago, we should be able to say, hey, look, we learned from that, we haven't made it anymore. Give us a second chance. How
encouraged are you by the response of those companies that have come forward and said, we support you?
Man, we're so excited. This year we've picked up, you know, we have Sodexo, Walmart, Hilton Americas, Verizon, the Four Seasons Hotel, Goodwill, Industrial Welding, Texas Medical Center. They've stepped in a big way. They said, you know, they were telling me they had close to 10,000 jobs, but that's from surging on down. Metro, Houston Apartment Association. So we're excited.
Well, I want to make sure, this is the whole reason we came here today, to talk about this. I want to make sure that people know what the important information is. This is next Monday. It's May 9th at the George R. Brown Convention Center. It's from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Yep.
And as you said, you don't want to be coming because mom wanted you to come. You want to be there because it's what you want. If you want more information, you can go to the website, secondchancejobfair.com, or you can call 832-393-3001, and hopefully it'll be a bigger success than last year.
We hope so. And for those who are calling, we're getting calls every second, as you can imagine. Don't be discouraged. Go to the website, fill out your registration form. You should be able to click on the company's logo and fill out an application right there. We're trying to make it as easy as possible. Also, I want to thank Metro. They will allow individuals to go online and get a free pass, whether it's for the Metro Rail or the bus, to be able to get there and back.
Oh, wow. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
No excuses there.
None whatsoever.
Hey, while I have you, let's talk about the flooding we had. The historic flooding here dumped a foot of rain during a couple of weeks ago, and now we're going through several days of rain as well. How satisfied are you with the way the government, the city government, has responded to what's happened and what is going to be happening going on?
Man, let me tell you something, Khambrel. If a trophy for best performance was given out in this deal, Sylvester Turner, Mayor Turner, would have received it 10 times over. He has really taken this thing on and done a fantastic job working with FEMA and the federal officials to get federal money to address this issue. So I give the mayor a lot of credit. My colleagues on city council, in particular Councilmember Davis, where it was in his district most of the flooding, I give them a lot of credit as well. We heard today at council, well, this past week, that additional federal money is coming in from FEMA to try to help some of these individuals, in addition to what Mayor Turner's raised money from the private sector to help them at this point get out of there and have a quality of life that they feel comfortable with.
What's the relationship between the city and the county in terms of trying to make sure that the areas that tend to always flood, we can do something about maybe cutting that back?
Well, I'll tell you, in my district, I want to, before the late Commissioner Franco Lee passed, we used to talk about it. I said, man, I'm going to owe you for life for what you've done to expand the bayou in my district, in the McGregor area, and Sims Bayou, and others. The working relationship I had with Commissioner Lee was just awesome in terms of following his lead, in terms of trying to make certain that we had a major flood, I think in '99, I'm not clear on the year off the top of my head, but it came all the way into the neighborhood. So we haven't had that problem in District D, not at that severe level. What happened out in the Aldine area, man, is just something we all praying for the families, and we all coming together as a city, from Conroe, from Atascocita. Everybody's coming in together as one big family to help the least and the last.
And it's working well for you, and you're looking forward to that kind of continual cooperation going forward.
And let me say one other thing, Khambrel. We did a full assessment of District D, my staff, and we picked up no major complaints with flooding, but debris, and so we're addressing that in our area.
Okay, well, hopefully we can get all of that taken care of and no more problems going forward. We do have the strong storms that are coming through, so hopefully everybody can be safe. Thank you for coming in. We appreciate it. That's going to be the last word for now. But good luck with that job fair, and hopefully your constituents in District D will be really happy about this and be able to get a job.
City in the county.
All right. Hey, coming up next, right here on Houston Newsmakers.
He was really a public servant first, and then a politician. He might disagree with that, but historically, if you really look at it, that's what he was.
The author of The American Odyssey of George Herbert Walker Bush, when Houston Newsmakers continues. The Barbara Bush Houston Literacy Foundation Celebration of Reading event was held last week at the Hobby Center for the Performing Arts. It was, by all accounts, a great event and a near perfect way to showcase the foundation started by Barbara Bush, known as the First Lady of Literacy. Her foundation, as is noted on its website, is dedicated to improving the quality of life for Houstonians across all ages through the power of literacy, the ability to read, write, speak clearly, and think critically. One of the special guests was John Meacham, the Pulitzer Prize-winning author who was given complete access to President and Mrs. Bush from 2006 to 2015 to be able to write what is probably the closest we'll ever come to an autobiography of President George H.W. Bush. I sat down with Mr. Meacham to talk about the resulting work, Destiny and Power, The American Odyssey of George Herbert Walker Bush. What was it that made you want to do that book? What was it that brought you to that point?
When I first met him, which was 1998, I had a kind of Dana Carvey-informed view of him coming out of the '92 campaign. I'd not spent much time around him, met him once when he was vice president. But in 1998, I went up to Maine with my friend Michael Beschloss, the historian, to interview him and Brent Scowcroft about a foreign policy book they had done. And almost immediately, I realized how he had become president, because he had this quiet, persistent charisma. And that's not a word we often associate with George H.W. Bush. We associate it with Ronald Reagan, with John Kennedy, even George W. Bush. George H.W. Bush is not seen as a charismatic man. He's seen as a nice man, a gracious man, a generous man. But I think that misreads him. I think that there is a remarkable capacity to make other people believe that their fates and futures would be safe in his hands.
Something that didn't come across necessarily on camera, but in person it certainly came across to you.
Instantly. It's funny, you know, as a young politician in Texas, in Houston and around the state, when photography was predominantly black and white, he was a glamorous figure. If you read the clips from those days, if you read the Chronicle, if you read the Dallas Morning News, if you read the Texas Observer out of Austin, he's always been compared to JFK and this sort of sex appeal. Again, not something you would think of. Something happened when things shifted to color and to more moving film, and he became less of a forceful figure in the media. But you meet him, and he's your friend for life. And that's how he became president. I mean, this is a man without a traditional political base. He never won a statewide race down here. And he became president because across several different assignments, across several different decades, he convinced just enough people that he was someone who could be trusted with ultimate authority.
He's always been somebody who's been a server. It seems to me that's what I get from his history.
He's a traditional Republican. He's an Eisenhower Republican, probably the last one. He believed that government had a role to play in leveling the playing field, but it shouldn't go too far. He had an opportunity when he first moved to Houston in 59, 60, 61 to become a Democrat when it was all a one-party state. Conservative Democrats came to him and said, we can guarantee you a future as a conservative Democrat. He said, no, I'm a Republican. His dad, of course, had been a Republican senator from Connecticut. So there were philosophical convictions. They were not particularly fervently held. He told me on a number of occasions, he didn't go into politics, to pass a flat tax or to reunify Germany. He went in to serve, to go to your point. He went in to help people, to try to make the world a little better. He was not driven by ideology. He was driven by an idea of service. And also by ferocious ambition, let's be clear. I mean, this is not someone who has ever drawn a lazy breath. He wanted to be at the top. He wanted to be in the arena. He once shook the hand of a department store mannequin by mistake in New Hampshire. So it tells you something about his drive.
We're in this social media, and everything's going so fast, and young people have their opinions about presidents, I guess, over the last few years. Millennials may not really know George H.W. Bush very well. What do you think millennials should know about George Bush that they may not be aware of?
He was the last undoctrinaire president. He was someone for whom compromise was not a dirty word. He was someone who believed in making the system work. He was a conservative in an older sense of that term, which was not ideologically driven, but you were a conservative if you accepted the world as you found it and tried to make it better. But you were wary of big reform, of big change, because you were never sure what the unintended consequences would be. I would imagine that his sensibility, also one of restraint abroad, would be one that would resonate with a millennial mindset. As unusual as it may seem to say that a child of Greenwich and Kennebunkport and the wealthier enclaves of Odessa, Midland, and Houston would be that, he was someone who was ferociously pragmatic and was an early advocate of broadening the base of the Republican Party. When he was the chairman of the Harris County Republican Party, one of his first letters was reaching out to local African-American leaders trying to see if he could get them in. He didn't see why the traditional African-American allegiance to the party of Lincoln should necessarily follow the Democrats in the civil rights era.
And I remember that at one point that he stood up and against the wishes of some of the people who were in his district, he stood up on behalf of some things that were going on regarding African Americans.
In April 1968, he voted just after Dr. King's assassination against the will of his constituents here. George H.W. Bush, as the congressman from the 7th District, voted for open housing and came down, had a big meeting, ferocious meeting you're alluding to, at the Memorial High School. He quoted Edmund Burke, saying that there are moments when your representative owes you their wisdom, not simply a reflection of your will. And he carried the day. Are
you surprised at the level of access that you had to the president to write this book?
I was. Very few presidential families would do this. They opened up everything without condition. No right of review. Mrs. Bush gave me her diary from 1948 forward. That was the one thing she got to make sure the quotations from it were okay, but she didn't take anything off the record that I asked to use.
Why do you think they did that? Why now?
I think they're incredibly confident and comfortable with what they did. And they got some things right and they got some things wrong. And they know that. But they've tried to live these lives of public service and public purpose. And I'm not deifying them. I'm not suggesting they be canonized. There are big mistakes along the way. That's what makes it interesting. That's what makes history and biography interesting. But by and large, the question you have to ask, if you do what I do for a living, is the world, is the country better off because this person, because this family was involved in the arena, or is it worse off? And we are unquestionably better off.
Fascinating conversation. I'll make our entire conversation available to you on my Newsmakers page on click2houston.com. Just go to the news slug on Click to Houston and click on Newsmakers, and there will be a link to the John Meacham conversation and more about the Barbara Bush Houston Literacy Foundation. Mother's Day weekend, right around the corner. One possible suggestion, the largest jazz festival on the Gulf Coast, all about the Red Cat Jazz Fest at Moody Gardens. That's next when Houston Newsmakers continues.
KPRC Channel 2. This is Houston Newsmakers with Khambrel Marshall.
Oh, I could listen to that a lot longer. That's Teresa Grayson, and she performed in Sugarland. But those beautiful tones will be on display in Galveston next weekend as a part of the Red Cat Jazz Festival at Moody Gardens, taking place all weekend long with a lot more than jazz going on. Joining me to talk about this event, scheduled for next weekend, which just happens to be Mother's Day weekend, Teresa Grayson, saxophonist, who will be playing at the Jazz Fest. And we also have Jay Kopic, who is the COO of the Associated Credit Union of Texas, whose organization is doing something very special for veterans during the festival. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, tell me, how long have you been playing, and how did you come to get involved with the Red Cat?
Absolutely. I've been at this since 2010 as a solo artist, and I've been with the Red Cat Jazz Festival and all of their associations since 2010. So it's been amazing every single year.
And you said you played it last year, and it was a great experience for you.
Amazing. It was amazing.
What made it so?
I think because the appreciation for jazz. And I believe the people of Houston, Galveston, we're just, you know, we just love music, we love live entertainment, and we love it being brought right here in our home. And
that's a several-day festival, so it sounds like there's an awful lot going on. Yes. So it's pretty much nonstop music, isn't it?
Absolutely, all day long for 2 days.
That's great, great.
Absolutely.
Now, away from jazz, Jay, your company is doing something very unique for veterans. Talk about what that is.
Last year, Sam and Jan Peak, who have put together the Red Cat Festival, came to us and said, hey, we'd like to have you guys participate. And the Associated Credit Union has a very large passion for veterans and first responders. And so, hey, we'd love to get involved, but we'd like to add a veteran element. So last year we added a veteran luncheon, and it had about 40 or 50 veterans in, guest speakers, and afterwards played golf. And it kind of coincided with the golf tournament. So this year when we said get back involved, let's do a breakfast. Same thing, we have keynote speaker Barry Matson, who is graduated from the U.S. Air Force Academy and also is an Army Airborne individual, and he is our keynote speaker. So Friday morning, we're going to have a breakfast with veterans for a couple hours, thank them, honor them for their service, talk about a group down in the League City area or the Gulf Coast area called SERVE, which is a group that I put together with a bunch of veterans in that area to kind of get the word out of how do we serve these men and women that have gone to battle for us and come back and talk about different services and so forth.
So it's a great way to pay tribute to them and have a good time at the Jazz Festival.
Absolutely.
As well. Teresa, what is the best way for people to enjoy it? What would you suggest? Would you suggest a one-day trip or stay over? I mean, how would you, what's the best way to enjoy it?
My best advice, and I've been telling all of my friends, make it a weekend. Just make it a weekend, you know, get a suite, get a hotel, and just stay right there on the premises and stay from Friday all the way through Sunday, because there's something happening every single day that you don't want to miss.
And when you're out on the stage, what is it that you're thinking? When you're playing and you're looking at the audience, what is it about that that excites you?
It excites me to touch my listeners' hearts. That's it. If I'm moving you, if I'm giving you a great experience, making you smile, making you laugh, making you say, oh, I love this song, that is my joy. That's what I live for. That's my thrive. So.
And
yes.
Jay, you're kind of late to the party on the jazz part, huh?
I love all kinds of music, and listen, when they got me down there last year, I fell in love even deeper with jazz, and I agree, you cannot miss coming down to the island. 3 days. Friday night they have an all-white pool party. They have a VIP event after afterwards. Incredible music, incredible camaraderie. They do a great program, and then all day Saturday and Sunday, having all these great acts out there doing what they love, what they believe in, and what they're passionate about. It's fantastic.
Anything you want to add?
I think it's going to be a phenomenal event, and the most important thing I'm a part of is Saturday, which is the Day of Health, Wealth, and Beauty at the Red Cat Jazz Festival, honoring survivors, cancer survivors. Okay. So we're so proud to be a part of that this year, and celebrating 100 years of jazz in America.
It's a great thing. Yes. There's a lot going on for those 4 days, so the best way to get information is to go to the website, redcatjazzfest.com, or call 713-226-7870. It promises to be a great weekend. And honoring Mom, too. What the heck?
Absolutely.
Teresa Grace and Jake Coppock, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to try to get off work and get down there and be a part of the day.
More than welcome.
It's going to be great. Hopefully you'll join me as well. Hey, just ahead, final thought about the removal of Andrew Jackson from the $20 bill in favor of Harriet Tubman from a man who won a Pulitzer Prize for the book he wrote about the former president. That's next, when Houston Newsmakers continues. Before I go this week, John Meacham won a Pulitzer Prize for his book American Lion, Andrew Jackson in the White House. I thought that he would be the perfect person to ask about the recent decision to replace Andrew Jackson on the front of the $20 bill with former slave Harriet Tubman. Here's some of what he had to say.
Maybe you don't want him in your wallet, but you have to have him in your historical imagination, because he embodied a lot of what was great about America, and he embodied a lot of what was bad about it. And guess what? We're sitting here in the spring of 2016. Andrew Jackson died in the summer of 1845. There's still a lot of good about America and a lot of bad.
I'll put this complete comment on click2houston.com. See you next week, everybody. Stay safe.